Welcome, everyone. This is Two Women Who Give a Puck. My name is Sarah.
And I'm Tera.
And we are here to highlight the experiences of female coaches and players in the sport of hockey, as well as to provide tangible ways to create positive changes within that environment. And so this is our second episode. The first episode, we kind of gave our why we are here. And then this episode, I want to highlight the like the tangible action items that we hope that our listeners will get out of this podcast. So we are here because we are two females in hockey, and our experiences have left us feeling that there's more that we can give hockey and that hockey can give to us. And so we started this podcast with the hopes that we are able to provide our listeners with tangible ways to improve the coaching environment within your organizations, attract and retain more female coaches and players, and ways to improve the environment for both those female coaches and players, as well as providing education to parents on the greatness of hockey for their daughters. So not just for their sons, but why hockey is so amazing for their daughters to be a part of. And then find things that we should be doing less of and things that we should be doing more of within our local associations. So again, the goal of this podcast is to really highlight, the 95% of us who are, everyday parents and hockey players and hockey coaches, and really focus on that low-level local organization. What can we do to make it more accessible and, more open and inviting to female coaches and players. And so to begin our podcasting journey, we figured we should share some insight on who we are and what we experienced in hockey. So our second podcast, first interview, is I will be interviewing Tera and having Tera share with us her hockey story. So you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's do it. Jump in.
All right. So my hockey story would probably begin. I'm not going to say how old I am. But when I was 2.5, my family moved back to Minnesota from Illinois. And my dad volunteered to coach at a local youth organization, and they had an outdoor practice at a rink. And as my dad was driving to the rink, he saw a house across the street from the rink, and he loved it. And he said, I think it's perfect, and it's right by a hockey rink, and so the kids can grow up playing hockey. And so,
did your dad play?
He did. Yep. He played up through college. So, anyway, we bought the house, grew up across the street from a rink, and that is where we spent pretty much all of our time in the winter. And then when I was probably kindergarten, I started organized hockey and played through, I guess I started then and just continued to play. When I first started, there was a couple other girls that were playing in our association. So I was part of the Roseville Association, which had a really strong history of women involvement in hockey, or girls being involved in hockey. But there was only a couple girls that were playing at my age level, so we just played with the boys, and there wasn't an option for me to play with the girls until I was much older, and so I was usually the only girl on my team ever, which really changed how I view hockey and how I view inclusiveness when it comes to hockey, because I was different, I was other, it leaves an impact on you.
Did you have to do the changing outside of the locker room?
I ended up there eventually. When we were little, in mites and whatever, everyone's together. But no, I've been in training rooms. I've been in the bathroom. I've been in the lobby. All of the places that, we're not the locker room with the team. And so that also, that impacts how you fit into the team as well if you're not in the locker room. Because part of the game is what happens in the locker room. There's team building. There's jokes. There's coaches going over game plans and coaches going over practice plans, but you're not there to hear it. And so it immediately makes you different, just not even having the opportunity to be with your team before or after practice.
Right.
Yep. So went my first year of playing hockey with girls was when I was in 6th grade. So what is that? U12s, I guess. And it was a positive experience. It was different because it was a different level of intensity because, and I think it's probably still this way, is there's different expectations from male coaches coaching girls versus boys. And, as we were preparing for this and I was thinking about my journey, it occurred to me that I've only ever had 2 female coaches, and both of them were in high school, and both of them were assistant coaches. Um, and they were very passive in their coaching. And so I never have had that strong female coaching figure when it comes to hockey, which is part of the reason we're here, right?
Right.
So started there, and then my 7th grade year, I started playing high school hockey, and I played through high school, and then went and played 2 years of college hockey at UW Superior. Go Yellow Jackets. And then I stopped playing hockey to pursue other things like studying abroad and other options, because college hockey is a grind.
It is.
It's a lot of work. It's 6 days a week. It's hours a day. And I also had to work because I had to pay for college. And so I only played for 2 years there. And then I took a really long break from hockey. I don't think I was engaged with the game until my kids started again, which was, 7 or 8 years later.
Right.
So, or more than that probably, but
And why do you think, did you just
um
lose interest or find different things to do?
I didn't have well, there's a couple things. I didn't necessarily feel welcome because if, you look at beer leagues or these other opportunities to get involved, once again, it's all men, for the most part. And there was, opportunities to do like, a ladies league team, but some of those things were only during the day. And I'm like, well, I have a job. Or they were, in other side of town at 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, once again, I have a job and I have to be up in the morning. And so I didn't necessarily feel welcome to join without putting myself way out there. And I'm not someone that generally puts myself way out there.
Except for in this podcast.
Yeah, this is it's just a little outside the comfort zone. But I didn't have a really good reason to, and I pursued other interests, and I didn't necessarily feel compelled. Like there was nothing compelling to draw me back in, and I kind of thought, oh, that's that was a big part of my past, and I moved on. And then you have kids, and it's like, oh, they need to do something, and like I know hockey, it's not basketball. So I'm like, perfect, we got it. Let me see if I can diss basketball in every episode.
Every episode. That's legit.
Yeah. So I on a whim, I decided I'm going to coach at the mini mitt level. I'll just get on the ice and help with the kids, and at that level, you're just corralling them and getting them through. And it was a really positive experience. And one of the things that I recognized right away is that there was other females on the ice at the time, and so there was other people that I could relate to, because it is very hard, especially in towns where people don't leave, like Rogers, Elk River area, where we are. There's a lot of friendships that are already built in, and nobody's rude per se or is trying to exclude you, but they have their groups of friends. And so if you're brand new and you're also one of the only females, you don't necessarily fit in with them. And so having other females available to ask questions to connect with, that was really helpful to me. Be like, oh, I can do this. I can be here.
Right.
And so I've been coaching ever since then. That was, I don't know, 7 years ago?
Yeah. I think, yeah.
7 or 8 years ago. Yep. So,
yeah, Cody and Riley would be in their 7th, just finished their 7th.
Yep.
Yeah. So Tara and I, our oldest kids are in the same grade. So it's Cody and Riley are both 6th grade. And then our, what used to be my youngest. Now I have a 1.5-year-old. We'll just say the youngest of the older kids
Both of those are in the same.
Both of those are in 4th grade. So I have Hannah on the girls' side, and then Tara has Owen, her boy.
Yeah.
So she's always coached with the boys.
Right.
Which to me, like I coach with my daughter.
Yeah.
And coaching on the boys' side seems just so much harder to me. Like I don't know if I would have coached or continued coaching as long if I only had boys.
Yeah.
And my husband played hockey as well. So he coaches with my son, and then I coach with my daughter. And then your husband didn't play at all. So you were, I mean, at one point you were, and you've always been the head coach, I believe.
No. So for mites, yes.
Yeah.
But Riley's first year in squirts, I'm not entirely sure the process they use for picking coaches, but I got an email saying Riley's on this team and here's his coach, and if you're interested, reach out. And I was hesitant, I'll be honest. I'm like, oh, this is like travel hockey and they're older, and I don't know if boys want a female coach as they start to get older and start to change and develop. And thankfully I had a really great head coach that I worked with that year, and he made everyone feel welcome and like they were supposed to be there and that they had something to contribute. And he made sure that all of the boys on the team understood that each of us coaches had something to contribute. And there was actually myself and another female coach that year, which was really neat to be in that situation and have the. For me, the thing that I really loved about it was that the boys relate different to a female coach and a male coach, and not in a better or worse way, just different. I think as a society, we expect boys to talk to men in like a more macho or more, serious way, or a more like, if I'm a joke around, it's going to be like not silly jokes. It's going to be like fart jokes or whatever. Right. But when they talk to a female coach, I feel like a lot of times they tell you how their day went. They tell you like what, we got a new puppy and it's named so-and-so. I feel like they tell you more about who they are. Right. And so when you have both the male and female coaches together, I think you get a better understanding of who that kid is, like holistically. Because there's things he's not going to tell me. I'm just laughing. So I'm thinking like, it always inevitably a player gets hit down low, and they're not going to tell me if they're okay. They're going to have to speak to a male coach, and that's totally okay. Right. But sometimes like they're frustrated or upset and they have a feeling or feelings that they don't want to deal with. I feel like they're more apt to talk to me if I pry a little bit and be like, hey, are you frustrated about this, or are you upset about this? And I feel like they're more comfortable talking to a female coach about some of those things, and being a little bit more vulnerable with a female coach. And maybe I'm making assumptions. I don't know, but that's kind of been the feeling I've had.
Yeah, and I've had that experience too on the ice where because every once in a while, it's mostly been with the girls, but every once in a while we practice with the boys, and especially during mite, there'd be boys and girls on the ice. And I would have players, like not on my team, but they would literally skate across the ice to come and tell me something and seek help from me when they skated past 3 or 4 different coaches, and they would come find me. So there is something about that, I don't know, more maternal relationship that kids relate to differently. And I think it's especially in hockey. Hockey is such a hard sport. Yeah. Every other sport, you have to know how to run. Like you already know how to walk, you already know how to run. Whereas hockey, you have to learn how to skate first. And so that makes it incredibly hard. And part of hockey is falling down and getting back up. A lot. A lot. And a lot of times in life, we're taught like you don't want to fall down. Like that's a bad thing. And so you have to mentally get past that feeling of like, oh, if I fall, I've done something wrong. And just be able to accept like, no, this is hard. You're going to fall. You're going to get back up. Yeah. And so there's a lot of emotions that happen that I don't know if parents fully understand, just like how much emotion happens.
So many tears on the ice.
Yes.
And I think parents don't understand that for sure. Like there is so many tears, and it's not even always because somebody is hurt. It's the frustration. It's the disappointment when you lose sometimes. It's the
My feet hurt.
my feet hurt, my helmet's too tight. I went one-on-one in the corner with that guy and I lost and I really hate losing to that guy. It's the somebody said I looked stupid today in the mirror. Right. That there's so many tears.
Right.
There's also a lot of laughs too.
Yes. Had I written down every thing,
my gosh.
you know, tear
Can you imagine?
inducing, I know. That would be just stories.
Reasons the Mite was crying today. That's a book.
That is a book. That is a
Coffee
book.
table.
A book, a video with just mic up every mite. And
Yes.
yeah. I can't think of any of them off the top of my head, but there's so many entertaining
Oh my God.
moments and just like take a deep breath moments because hockey is hard and I think they seek out those female coaches to help them get past the emotions. Not that there aren't, you know, kind and considerate male coaches out there, but I think there's possibly just that assumption of like this female can help me with these emotions, maybe more so than this male. And so if they have the opportunity to find a female, like I said, sometimes the kids who aren't even on my team, and maybe this is the first time we've been on the ice together, they would literally skate from end to end to come and tell me something, which I mean, that is the joys of being a female coach. We talk a lot about how hard it is and how awkward we feel and we don't always feel included, but when those little things happen, it's just that small little reminder of like there's a reason that we're out here, and that simply by being a female we can provide this different value to these players.
And I feel like we also are an outlet sometimes for some of the stuff that's happening off ice, because, you know, they can't talk to mom and dad about everything because maybe mom and dad's the one that they're frustrated with. Or, you know, teachers, let's face it, there's so many kids in a class and they're busy and they can't always necessarily vent to a teacher about something. But we hear about so many things that happen off the ice. And 99% of the times it's things they're excited about, but sometimes it's things they're frustrated about. Like, my sister did this to me today, or, you know, something at school happened, or there's so many things that we hear about. And I think it's a place where we come and we ask them to give these kids to give so much of themselves. And so if they're able to feel comfortable enough that they can talk to us about not just the hockey things, but the other things, I feel like they engage more. And like you said, it's not to say that male coaches can't do that, but I feel like female coaches just do it differently. Mm-hmm. And some kids need that maybe softer landing. And we should also say, though, there is some female coaches that can't provide that. That's just not who they are as a person. It doesn't right or wrong. It's just not who they are. Some females are just a minute to win it, and that's fine. But that's not who I am, and so my experience is obviously going to be different than theirs. But I don't know where we're going with that.
Who knows? We're just going.
Yeah. So I my first year of squirts or whatever, I had a really great coach that made us female coaches feel welcome, made the kids understand that we were welcome and that our input was just as valuable as anything a male coach said. And then the last 2 years, I've been the head coach of a squirt team. And 1 year I had 2 female assistants, which was
unusual.
It was great. Don't get me wrong. It was great. I thought it was fantastic. And then this past year I was the only female, and that was challenging again. Right. Particularly because I was coaching with people I'd never coached with before. And so I have to earn their trust as well as the kids. And that's a real thing, because the parents don't necessarily trust you if they don't know you. The coaches don't necessarily trust you. And we have a mutual friend whose kid was on our team, and he came home the first day and he's like, "Oh, I have the girl coach."
Right.
And
she played hockey.
Yeah.
His mom played hockey, so it's not like he hasn't seen female athletes. But I think he was actually in tears because he
had the girl
coach, and
I will say he's done a 180. He enjoyed being on my team, from what I've been told. I enjoyed having him. He was responsive. He listened. He was respectful. He was all the things that you would want in a player.
And I heard, not too far into the season, his comment or realization was that you were actually the only coach who, really knew what was going on and knew hockey. And so he then felt comfortable with like, oh, she can. And she's actually one of the only ones here right now who can teach me the game.
Yeah. And I'm just going to say, my assistant coaches were great this year. But they did have limited experience. So yes. And that was, by the end of the year, I had a great relationship with all of them and we worked really well together, but there was a learning curve for both us coaches and for the players, and myself being, it was a different type of challenge this year, not because you're the only one with like real experience, and I believe the only one with actual travel hockey experience as a coach in my group, and so there was just a lot to learn, and you end up with the at tournaments and at games, and everyone goes up to the male coaches and assumes that they're the head coach, and they're like, I don't know. And so there was a lot of you guys over here.
Right.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah. Referees, come talk to me. And so there was, it was great, but it's definitely a different dynamic when you're the only female and you're working with people that are not used to having a female with experience and authority in the hockey sense.
Right.
But it's good for them, I think. So.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's what we talked about. It's great for those boys and their parents to see a female in a leadership position and really being able to own it and do well and prove herself in that space. If we go back to your playing days, so you grew up playing with the boys and then switched over to the girls.
Yep.
So I have zero experience playing with the boys apart from like, in the neighborhood pickup games. What were the differences that you felt between, being on an all boys team and then switching over to an all girls team? And has that, changed or altered your perspective in, what you're seeing now within, the hockey world?
So my experience with the boys teams is that you end up with, they at that age tended to be more aggressive, a little more competitive in nature. Not necessarily a more competitive game, but like that just, there was a spirit of competition that was maybe a little more intense. And there was, I don't like I said, it's hard because I never felt like I was truly part of the team because I was other.
Mm-hmm.
But when you went to the girls' side, it was less competitive in the way that they approached the game. Not necessarily like the actual hockey itself, but there was less intensity, and that I struggled with that. I remember struggling with that. But then I went, I was only at that for 1 year, and then I ended up in playing high school, and the high school girls are going to have that level of competitiveness. That is just what you don't play a high school sport without a level of competitiveness. And so it's hard for me to answer that question because, like I said, it was only 1 year that I was truly with like a youth girls team.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yep.
And it was a different era then because really girls hockey was just starting. So you
you
have been playing for however many, 5, 6, 7, whatever years. And you were most likely then with girls who were just learning how to skate.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So that alone is going to create a totally different dynamic amongst the team too, because they can be competitive, but it's going to look different because kind of like, our mini mites are incredibly competitive. Our buzzer beater adult mini mites, our drunk mini mites are incredibly competitive, but it obviously looks different than, if we're to go out there and play with, women at our level. But
yeah, and the other piece of it too is when you grow up, and you'll know this, is when you grow up and you spend a lot of time on the pond, it gets intense. and we grew up in a neighborhood where there was a lot of kids that were at the pond, and it got very intense that time. I mean, cracked my head open one time. But it was very intense. It was you were out there for hours, and you would play these pickup games that would, like, no one wanted to quit because you didn't want to lose. And so it was a different type of intensity than you have when you're only going to practice.
Yes.
And you learn a different style of hockey. It's a little more dirty. We're gonna say,
Yeah.
but you also learned a lot of respect that way, because you'd play these pickup games, and half the time somebody would be on your team, and the other half the time they'd be on the other team. And so you learn to be a little bit more respectful as a competitor too, versus when you're always playing with the same group of kids and you only worry about your teammates, and the other team are, nameless, faceless people. They're just helmets out there skating around.
Right. And you have kids of different ages too. So
Yep.
a lot of times you have that good group of kids who will let the 6-year-old come in and play and be really good there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's hard for me to say it's hard for me to really pinpoint what the differences were. But I think it was a good experience to have both of those in my background. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Anything else you can think of that you want to share about your just share with the listeners what this was my hockey experience.
Yeah.
My
So
hockey story.
not my story so much, but like kind of the things I've taken away from my story. I found myself recently at work in a conference room, and it was myself and several men who are, executive level people, and it was, 6 or 7 of them and me. And I was looking around the room, and I was like, I am comfortable in this space because, and I was thinking about it, I'm like, it's weird that I'm the only girl. Like, I wasn't okay that I was the only female in this room, because it's that whole mindset, that we struggle with in hockey. We tend to promote and engage with the people that are like us. And that's why we're here today, is to try and get past that. And how do we get more people engaged? And how do we not promote people, but how do we get people to step up and step in and say, I feel welcome and I feel like I belong. But I'm sitting in this room and I'm looking around and I'm like, you know what? I'm not intimidated by any of these people. I have learned from my both playing and coaching that I can be in any room that I work to get into, and that I belong here even though I'm the only one that looks like this, or that I'm the only female. That doesn't make me any less deserving to be here. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, that has a lot to do with my hockey experience and knowing, nope, I do have something to offer, and I am not, I shouldn't, I'm not sure how to say it. I shouldn't feel like I don't belong, or I shouldn't feel like
less than.
Yeah. Or that what the information that I'm sharing in this meeting is any less valuable because it's coming from me versus males approaching senior citizen status.
Right. So you have valuable information to provide, and you don't need to, always defer to them. Right. You can be kind of like on an equal playing level. And for sure, I would think your experiences in hockey and in coaching, like especially this year being the only female and really taking on that leadership role. And that just gives you that practice and that confidence to then be able to bring that into situations outside of the rink. And that's why I think it's so incredibly valuable for girls to be playing sports and to continue playing and play those more masculine sports like hockey, because it's very few of us are going to be playing in a professional setting or even be coaching in a professional setting, making money off of this sport. And so it's really
expensive. It's making money.
We will be spending a lot of money on this sport, not, being paid in this sport, most likely. And so and that's why I think a lot of parents these days are kind of losing focus on how much this sport can bring into your life, like outside of the rink, what it can bring. Like I was talking about before, it's a hard ass sport to play. It's very physical. It's very fast. You have like 0.2 seconds to think of what you're going to do next. And
there's so many soft skills that you have to learn. And there's so many,
yes,
just tiny mechanical things that it's not like football where you're just, all right, that's the position, you hit somebody. There's so many tiny little mechanics that are involved. And you have to be able to do all of those things correctly and correct yourself and still mentally play the game, which is hard.
Right. Yeah. So there's so much that this sport can then bring out into, the real world, outside of the rink, your real life, and help you in all situations like family, work, school, all of that. And so that's why it's just so important that everyone feels welcome and we bring even more players into the game, and even more female players into the game.
Yep.
All right. So last question, the heavy hitter, the one that you came up with. So now you get to be the first one to answer.
Bring it on.
After this. So what do you want your legacy to be?
So I think the thing I want most is that I want the thing I tell all of my players over and over again, and it's, before every game, after every game, in between periods, at practice. The thing I always tell people is have fun. I want people to think about hockey and think it is fun, and I had fun doing it. And if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. I mean, not to say there's not hard days, but like that, I want people to have fun. But it's not as simple as that, though. It's, that having fun means that these girls are coming to practice when we're with the mites or whatever, and we were coaching. The girls were coming to practice and they were having fun, say, I want to come back. That's important. That the coaches, the female coaches that we work with, they have fun. And it's not always on the ice, right? It might be happy hour. It might be just hanging out in the stands watching another team play and you're just chit-chatting and having fun. If we are making it fun, people are going to continue to come back. And but having fun also means sportsmanship. It's a heck of a lot more fun when you're a good sport about it. Have a little bit of respect for yourself and your teammates. It's fun when you win. It's fun when there's so many things that I want kids to learn, but if you're not having fun, you're not learning, right? Because you learn so much better when you're enjoying it. And so my goal has always been how do I engage kids and make it fun for them? How do I engage the coaches and make it fun for them? How do I make people want to keep showing up at the rink? And more importantly, when it comes to the female side, is how I know how stressful it can be because I've been there. I know that it's hard to feel like you're welcome or that but if you can have fun, then you start feeling welcome. If you can have fun, you keep showing up for these kids. You keep showing up for yourself. And so that, for me, that's always the biggest thing. When people think about me in hockey, I hope they're thinking that I had fun doing it and that I was trying to make it fun for everyone else and that I did make it fun for everyone else.
Right.
So,
right. All right. So legacy of fun.
Yep.
I like it.
And being safe. It happens when you're married to my husband.
Yeah, that can be a challenge.
Yep. But yeah, that's, I think, really what I want. I want every kid I've coached ever to look back and be like, I had fun on that team. I had fun in that environment. That's just really what I wish for anyone that I interact with in hockey, is that I made it better for them.
Right. Right. And like you mentioned too, fun equals improving. Yeah. I think a lot of people sometimes see it's fun on one side and improving on another. Yeah. I think your legacy too is combining both.
Yep.
Like you can have a ton of fun and that also helps you improve as a player, right. Which, ultimately that's what every kid and parent wants out of the season, is typically every parent and kid, not all of them. We have experienced not all of them, but yeah, the vast majority, like they want to have fun and they want to improve.
Well, I think about when the teams get made at the beginning of the season, and one of the comments that you hear over and over again when people look at which kid made which team and who the parents are, they're like, oh, that's going to be a fun team. Like,
right.
That is, everyone's like, oh, I wish I was on that team.
Yes. We had
it's important.
Yeah. 2 years ago, I was like, God dang it. I wish Cody would have made a different team.
Yes.
Yes.
And having been on one of those fun teams, it makes all of the work, like the entire difference for the season.
Yes.
We had fun. The kids had fun. And every single kid on that team is actually still playing, which is awesome because the attrition rate starts to pick up here as they get older. But
yeah,
as I'm thinking back, every kid on that team is still playing. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So fun. All right. Fun. This is what we're doing here. We're having fun. Well, thank you for sharing your hockey story with us, Tara. And ladies, remember, we belong in hockey and we deserve to be a part of the greatest game on the planet.
And do what you can to invite somebody in.